So now we welcome Jan Truszczyński, former chief negotiator for Poland's EU accession and also former deputy Polish foreign minister. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to TVP.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
So you had a very hands-on experience when it came to actually bringing Poland into the EU. A lot of key government officials who have actually joined us here at TVP World over the last few days have emphasized the key role of EU funds that have led to Poland's transformation over the last 2 decades. But we've noticed that you have taken a slightly different stance and have spoken a lot about the transformative impact of the single market when it has come to Poland's changes. Can you tell us a little bit about your opinion in regards to that?
Well, I still uphold this opinion, of course, because I'm not much of a researcher. I benefit from the research done over the last years by others, and this research uniformly shows that participation in the single market, the free flow of goods, services, capital, money, that is, and people, has contributed largely to the overall average rate of growth that Poland registered over the last 20 years. It contributed, many say, up to 50% of the total of the average growth rate of 3.6% per annum, which is considerable, which is indeed impressive, and which, when you look back, you can see made Poland grow by 100% over the last 20 years. So while the structural funds, while the direct payments for farmers are undoubtedly important, of course, they do contribute to the overall modernization of the country and the quality of the economy. But it is still so that single market is by far the biggest single benefit that Poland has been able to draw from membership of the European Union.
Would you describe that as teach a man how to fish instead of just giving men the fish situation?
Well, teaching how to fish, obviously, because without good participation, without good preparation at the level of companies, small companies included, at the level of individual farms, at the level of self-government bodies throughout the country, Poles would not have been able to draw early benefits from this participation in the single market. So without preparation, without good level of preparedness, no way to benefits, no way to actually make good profits from the participation in the European Union. This happened to Poland. Many claimed in the past, I still recall, that we are coming into the Union unprepared, that it will be perhaps not a disaster, but nonetheless there will be massive breakdown of many sectors of the economy. Farmers will suffer, small businesses will go under, will be swallowed, swamped by cheaper and better goods from the so-called West. This all proved to be nonsense, actually, but that was the frame of mind. In that time, that was the mood of many people. Apprehension, even fear, I would say, but in any case, anxiety, how will it be? Will we be able to actually draw any benefit from it all? And the overall preparedness proved to be sufficient for Poles to show their skills at entrepreneurship, at getting new contacts, new customers, and so on and so forth.
So that process, you from looking back now on those 2 decades, you think that that process was smoother than expected?
I would say yes, indeed. Yes, okay. Yes. Compared to the initial starting point, I just told you about this anxiety. I sensed it, I saw it. After the end of the negotiations, I was accompanying Prime Minister, President of the country in travels around the country to talk to the people and to tell them what it is all about, what is the content of the accession treaty. But I had up to 60 meetings of my own as the former chief negotiator, and I did register, above all, those voices of discontent, or at least anxiety and apprehension. How will it all be?
Well, it was obviously like a revolution for Poland. You know, it was a completely different situation back then, I
yes
suppose.
and no, in the sense that, after all, Poland started on its journey, just like all the others in Central and Eastern Europe, towards market economy, towards liberal democracy, back in 1989 already. And the wish to join the European Union crystallized in the years 90 and 91 already. And from then on, we kept banging on the door and trying to convince our partners in the West that we were good enough to be considered as a potential future member and as a candidate already in the early 90s. And this all went accompanied in parallel by adjustment, by learning from the practices and procedures applied within the European Union. So we kept aligning with what was required of the future member states.
And like you mentioned earlier, there was a lot of anxiety when it comes to integrating into this new economic system. And of course, when integrating into a new economic system, there needs to be a certain level of reform. And again, like you mentioned, the transition is actually not as bumpy as a lot of people had worried. So what are some of these hurdles that had to be overcome, and how was Poland prepared to overcome these hurdles?
Well, privatization of the economy started in the early 90s, of course. The changeover to convertible currency started at the beginning of the year 1990. Reforms of the labor market started around the same time. Reforms of the farming sector, small scale, admittedly, at least initially, but they also started to be implemented in the early 90s already. By and by, the country was becoming better and better prepared to function as a future participant, future partner in this large single market, in the free market economy. What shall I say? Should we have entered the Union 10 years earlier, might have been a disaster, of course, because of the low preparedness, because of the inability to actually stand one's own in the competitive environment. But this didn't happen. This did not happen because, as I said, operators at a grassroots level, not us bureaucrats. Us bureaucrats too, of course. We were prepared to function within the bureaucracy of the European Union. But what mattered most was, of course, the mindset and the readiness to use the new opportunities at this grassroots level from all kinds of businesses and indeed from individual farmers as well.
The aspect of free movement, the single market, actually contributed to the fact that many, many young people went abroad to study and also to work. But then there was a wave of those coming back, and they've set up businesses and they've actually moved back permanently. How much do you think that has actually contributed to the development of Poland?
Not terribly much. I would say Poland, when we joined, had a very high rate of unemployment, close to 19%. By far the highest among the then candidate countries. So it's no surprise that up to 2 million people decided to seek their luck in the United Kingdom, in Ireland, elsewhere where the access to the local labor market was possible from day one. And this meant, of course, a large outflow of skilled, entrepreneurish, younger people, a loss for the economy, you could say. And indeed, after all these years, one could say, could we have avoided that? Probably not. Probably not. And that is the hidden cost of enlargement, of course. But as you rightly said, many were starting later to come back, to settle again in Poland, and then to go and work elsewhere. More and more people actually regard the migration as a thing of everyday life, something that is not forever, something that does not mean you need to put your roots elsewhere and stay put there until the end of your life. There is a to and fro, back and forth movements, and that, I think, is also a facet of the single market. It's admittedly so that the overall labor mobility remains low compared to United States and not just to the United States. It is true that language skills are insufficient and you cannot freely move around hopping from Portugal through Poland to Finland and back. That's out of the question. But on the other hand, the number of those who settle for a while, for a longer period of time, or even permanently in a country other than the one in which they were born, keeps growing in the European Union. And we are part of that model, of course.
Right. Speaking of being part of the model, now we do have another country that's under the international spotlight who aspire to join this single market system, of course, talking about Ukraine. And I'm also wondering if, Poland has its hurdles when it comes to join the European Union. And as you said, the market was prepared, was ready, and the preparedness of the grassroots movement as well as the bureaucrat made it possible to kind of weave all these question marks. Do you think that this Poland success story can be like a model for which Ukraine could follow suit?
I mean, tell you what, I have been involved in advisor capacity in Ukraine between 2014, when I went into retirement, and 2018, and now I keep teaching young Ukrainian would-be bureaucrats about the intricacies of the European integration. So I regard myself as a person who is slightly better informed than the average citizen of Poland. And I can say that Ukraine has covered a lot of ground and managed to align quite nicely since 2014, since the moment when they had another revolution there. And they also had the association agreement, broadly designed, deep free trade area as a future goal, something much more ambitious, much broader than the association agreement that Poland had in the past, starting in 1991. So when you look at Ukraine nowadays, some will say about 50% of what needs to be done to join the EU has already been completed in Ukraine. Others will go higher and claim it was 60, 66, 70%. Whatever the percentage figure, the fact of life is they have made a lot of progress already, and while a lot remains to be done, and the negotiations, when they effectively start, hopefully later this year, will take us several years. That's inevitable. Ukraine will not come unprepared. And I, for one, believe that 2030, as the year of completing the accession talks, and possibly even Ukraine joining the EU, is not unrealistic at all.
As we wrap up our conversation, I wanted to ask you, since you have inside knowledge, what do you think of the EU now? Because it obviously isn't the same institution as it was at the time when Poland joined. What are the main challenges for the EU as we see it now? We have the parliamentary elections coming up.
I think it is abundantly clear what are the challenges. They are the same and more what they were over the last few years already. Tackling the climate change is one, getting the economy to perform in a greener way, and getting the society and the economy to go more and better on information technologies, dealing with external security, meaning European Union becoming a more equal partner to the United States within NATO and as the European pillar of NATO, getting more benefits from all these attempts we made to assure the economic security in the global economy. And I would say also mastering the inevitable stream of migrants into Europe, which is going to become larger and larger. And we have all the reasons to try even harder about mastering that challenge. So that is nothing, I would say, there is nothing in it which you have not heard before. The challenges are clear for everyone to see. What needs to be done is more or less clear as well. What we need is resolve, unity, and the ability to take timely decisions.
Indeed. Okay, thank you very much. Jan Truszczyński, former chief negotiator for Poland's EU accession and former deputy Polish foreign minister. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.